ठीक है। Hi everyone, we are now looking at some questions from logical reasoning that were not initially covered as part of your analytical reasoning analysis. So we are particularly looking at those questions that we have not covered in the analytical reasoning section. Okay, so the first passage that we are doing here is this fishing one, which I think amongst all passages was an easier read. Although there were some coding decoding questions on the passage, which the AR teacher felt were slightly tricky. Okay, of course we had sort of a CR question on this one. Which one of the following logical relations are correct, right? So option A says scamming is a superset of which phishing, wishing, and smishing are mutually exclusive. So what it says is that scamming and phishing, wishing, and smishing, right? Phishing, smishing, and wishing, right? So this is what option A tells us. Option C says wishing and smishing are subsets of scamming. So according to me, both these options could be correct. Actually, I don't understand as in what sense would it make to give both these options, because technically speaking, there's no problem with option C. From the passage itself, right? From the passage itself, it does say usually carried out over email. Phishing scam has now spread beyond suspicious emails to phone calls, and it says so-called wishing, right? So it does not really create a demarcation between the two, and also from the passage it is not very clear as to whether these two are completely distinct, right? So I think a safe option here would be option C, because as I said, I don't see any problem with option C. Okay, so we are going with option C on this one. All right, so the next passage was Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and I think there weren't many analytical reasoning questions on this passage. Let's have a look. So the first one says, which of the following assumption is are necessary to conclude that plastic waste emerging from land would be the smallest in size as it accumulates in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, right? So plastic waste emerging from land would be the smallest. So from in the question stem, it's not very clear as to smallest with respect to what. Is it the smallest with respect to some other waste coming from some other sources, not from land, maybe from the sea itself? Is it in respect to that? Because if it is in respect to that, so for example, there is this waste A coming from land, and then there is waste B coming from sea itself, right? And emerging from land would be smallest when it reaches uh, Great Pacific Garbage Patch, right? A becomes this and B probably is this. right? So it says this particular is the smallest, right? With respect to the other waste coming from the sea itself, right? So when that comparison is done, right, the assumption is when they started, right, when they started from their respective origin source points, they were comparable in terms of size, right? On the other hand, it could mean that this biodegrade or this photo degrades to a larger extent. Maybe they do not start with at similar sizes from the origin, but the rate of degradation was higher in A, coming from A, or A rather, and rate of degradation in B is to a lesser extent, right? So I think a lot depends on smallest in what respect. So if you are taking smallest with respect to each other, then the assumption is that when they started out, their sizes were comparable, right? So I am doing this question keeping that perspective, and therefore I think the correct option should be B, which says plastic waste emerging from land and other sources are of somewhat equivalent sizes, right? Because end of the day, when we are calling it the smallest, we are making that comparison, right? So starting point, they were almost equivalent, right? So we are going with B, but if they mean the other way, that it has degraded to a larger extent, then of course the option could be D also, right? But since smallest, I don't interpret it in any other way. I'm not able to interpret it in any other way. I'm going with B, Bombay. Okay. All right. So this one is easy. Researchers showed that for every 1,000 kilometers, a piece of plastic travels through oceanic water, breaks down into 100 pieces. Each of those pieces would then also break down in 100 more pieces. So 100 pieces breaking down into 100 more pieces, division happening at a regular rate, right? Division from a big mass and into smaller pieces, right? A says reproduction of amoeba. Each amoeba splits into two in a certain period of time, which then again splits into two in the same period of time. And yes, division happening at regular intervals of time, and a whole mass breaking down into smaller pieces. B says a train locomotive accumulating two coaches at each station it crosses. So accumulating. So sort of multiplication happening, right? At each station there are two more bogies or two more coaches adding, right? C says caseload of a court increasing as a result of more fresh cases being filed every day. Again, sort of giving us a sense of multiplication, right? Here, it's increasing in numbers, but through division, right? So A looks the best option. We go with A here. 21st, theoretically filtering out all plastics from water bodies flowing into the sea and preventing direct disposal of any plastic from land into sea would what? So what are they doing? They are filtering out all plastics from water bodies flowing into the sea. So one of the channels is cancelled and preventing direct disposal of any plastic from land into sea. So another channel getting closed down. So two channels. One, water bodies flowing into the ocean, and two, the waste that comes from land, right? So both these channels are sort of closed down. What will happen? A says eliminate the Great Pacific Garbage Patch over a sufficiently long time period. Will it eliminate? We are not sure if the plastic there would break down into something and it will just go away, right? We are not sure of that. So option A, we can eliminate. B says stop the growth of the size and depth of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch over a sufficiently long time period. So stop the growth, maybe yes, it stops the growth because these two channels are getting sort of closed down. But one might wonder what happens to the waste coming from the ship that are traversing on the ocean, right? So that is one, I think, one channel which they have not included, right? Ships on the ocean and waste coming from the ship itself, and adding to this Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Maybe there's some growth. Let's look at C. Stop the speed of growth of size. Stop the speed of growth. That will surely happen, right? That will surely happen. So again, C looks to be a safer option. A, according to me, we cannot say for sure because we don't know whether it will get eliminated. Where will the plastic go? I'm not sure. Nothing in the passage, sort of. Nothing from the passage leads to this. Okay, so the best looking option is option C. 21st. All right. 22nd, I think, again is a simple one. A teacher wants to demonstrate the futility of ocean cleanup. She believes that unless plastic removal is faster than plastic accrual, the overall size and depth of Great Pacific Garbage Patch would stay stagnant or may even worse. And that makes sense. Which of the following analogies can she draw to drive home her argument? Right? And option B looks to be the correct option here. Water level in a partially filled bucket with an outlet continues to rise if the amount of water coming through the inlet is faster than the amount of water that goes out through the outlet. So B is a straightforward one. C, on the other hand, is the reverse of what B is saying, but she does want to demonstrate the futility. So B will demonstrate the futility, right? Maybe C also explains the principle, but B actually demonstrates the futility of the entire exercise if we don't follow this faster than plastic accrual wala principle, right? So option, we'll go with option B, Bombay. All right. And then there were some rules given here. We can go through the rules quickly. The details of the experiments and their results are as below. Okay, so the results of the experiment, not rules, but results. Results says if plastic accumulation in sterile, non-polluting conditions, so plastic accumulation in non-polluting conditions affects marine life, the result is yes, the effect is there. 2 says separately check if any kind of pollution in some non-plastic environment affects marine life. It turns out that marine life is not affected at all. Separately check if pollution absorbed by accumulated plastic affects marine life. All right. It turns out that marine life is negatively affected. The measurement, the effect is there, right? So plastic accumulation happening in a non-polluting environment, it affects marine life. Plastic accumulation happening in a polluting environment, it affects marine life. Any kind of pollution apart from plastic accumulation in some non-plastic environment, no effect, right? So what is the key? What is critical? Plastic environment, right? Look at B. Pollution is dangerous for marine life only if it takes place in an environment where plastic has accumulated, option B looks good here. Option B. Okay, so we are, we are strictly restricting ourselves to the experiment conducted, right? If we go strictly by what the results were, then B looks good. Okay. All right. All right. So this passage, okay, we have done some crypto mining passages, cryptocurrency passages, not particularly with relation to the GPU, right? And I think the passage itself, uh, it it was technical at place, but the questions themselves, the questions, they were not amply clear. The options were not amply clear, right? So there could be some controversies on some of the questions on this passage, right? Let's look at them. All right, this is the passage. The first question on the passage: on the basis of this article, a rational person decided that X was a better GPU for crypto mining than Y. X is greater than Y. He found that initial cost of X was, in terms of cost, it was lower than Y, right? It therefore follows that X's hash rates were higher than Y. So now in the passage, there were two factors that were given. Factor number one, hash rate itself, right? The higher the hash rate, better the GPU. The other factor was the price of the GPU, right? So there were two things. One would be able to call it a GPU better than the other GPU based on, and I think we can go back to the passage. We can go to that line. One second. Uh, right. So somewhere here, right? When deciding on a GPU for crypto mining, you need to bear in mind a few factors. Do you want to pay more upfront now or potentially earn higher returns? So two factors. Or do you feel as though the mining scene will dissipate slightly with lower returns and wish to spend only a small amount on a GPU? So the cost factor. And then there was a hash rate factor. So long as the hash rate will pull in coins for you to sell and make enough to cover electricity costs, right? So electricity cost, hash rate, and the cost of the GPU as well, right? So three factors, right? And here it says X's hash rates were higher than Y's. Maybe X is better GPU, and better is a subjective term. X is a better GPU than Y because of the cost. It's more cost effective, right? And does not necessarily mean that hash rates were higher than Y's. And obviously, for the same reason, B and C, X's hash rates were the same as Y's. None of these options can be determined, right? Because there is more than two factors, right? There's this cost, the electricity, and third, the hash rates themselves, right? So we're going with option D here. 31st, if total cost of mining n bitcoins using GPU X was lower than that of that than the total cost of mining the number of bitcoins using GPU Y, then it follows that, right? Total cost would include what? I think total cost should be, I think, of mining bitcoins, right? I would assume electricity, right? How much electricity, total electricity rather, right? And maybe we also factor in the cost of GPU itself, right? Total cost. This is how it would look like, right? Now, A says X's per unit time electricity consumption is lower than Y's per unit time. So electricity per time. So maybe electricity per time, right? So maybe they are using 20 watts per whatever second, right? 20 watts per second, and in the other case it is 25 watts per second. Now it will play a role, but can we say for sure that this is lower than Y's? What if this is equal to Y's, both are at 20 watts per second or per hour, whatever? The rate is the electricity consumed per unit time is same, but X takes way more time, or way less time rather, in this case way less time than Y. Okay, so in both cases this is 20 watts per second, right? But X takes way less time. Maybe the hash rate of X is, way high, so X takes less time and Y takes more time. X takes 1 day, Y takes 5 days. So we are not sure if X's per unit time electricity consumption is lower, right? Because we need to understand the total electricity consumption. Okay. B says X's per unit time electricity consumption. For the same reason, we can eliminate B. C says X's cost price is lower than Y's cost price. Again, that determination cannot be made. Okay. So we cannot infer one particular thing, because all these factors could be working together to give us that cost while mining n bitcoins using GPU X was less than the cost while mining the same bitcoins using GPU Y, right? So all of these factors could be working together. So we can't really determine one specific thing that is working for X and not working for Y. So we are going with D here. All right. What is the relationship between profits made using crypto mining and hash rates? High hash rates necessarily lead to high profits? Not necessarily. High hash rates necessarily lead to some profits. Low hash rates cannot lead to profits. So A and C are definitely extremely worded. B, on the other hand, high hash rates necessarily lead to some profits. The author does want to put across a point to check the market scenario, to check that public sentiment. He used the word emotion, right? So again, we are not sure whether it will lead to some profit for sure, right? Maybe the one with high hash rates is is crazy expensive, and the market is not really going as per the plan, and then it might just be losses, right? So I think B could be given the correct option, but according to me, D is a better option. Okay, so we'll go with D here. Okay. 33rd. Assuming that the cost price and hash rates of two GPUs are identical, which of the following statements is true? A says the profits made by crypto mining using the GPUs in different time periods and thereafter selling the GPUs would be identical. Identical is extreme. B, the profits made by crypto mining and using the GPUs in the same time period, again identical, extreme. C, the profits made by crypto mining using the GPUs in the same time period and thereafter selling the GPUs could be different. Yes, this looks good. Could be different. The moment we see could be different is possible, it starts making sense, right? Option C is correct here. Option C. 34th also, there can be two options here. We'll just discuss them. GPUs are made of infinitely small chips made out of semiconductors. Due to the pandemic, companies manufacturing these chips had to be shut down, assuming that the prices of cryptocurrencies and electricity remain constant. This would lead to what? So ये one तो एकदम sure shot है. Looking at the options also, this is sure shot. 2 says lower profits made by people mining cryptocurrency. Now, it will be lower profits for people who are now about to buy GPUs, right? Who are about to buy GPUs, and lower profits compared to people who already have those GPUs, right? Again, lower is comparative. So lower with respect to people who already have their GPUs, right? So maybe lower profits for people who are entering this mining or who are planning to buy a new GPU. People who already have the GPU, right? For them, I don't think this will make an impact because they already have the GPU. They may have bought it before the pandemic, and they're continuing to do what they are doing, right? So two could go either way, right? So we are giving B as a safer option, but I think D could also be given as the correct option because, as I said, lower profits made by people mining cryptocurrency with respect to what is the key here, right? So let's go with B, Bombay, safer option, but the answer key, official answer key can have D. Okay. All right. A certain extremely expensive GPU has the best hash rates among all GPUs. This GPU would, okay, have high resale value, have high electricity consumption, not necessary, gives less profit in crypto mining, again not necessary. Look here again, have high resale value. They have given have high resale value. It looks very likely, but then again it would also depend on because resale is also a function of time, right? High resale value after 10 years or after 20 years, right? So again, a good safe option is D, Delhi. Okay, because the way this question is written, right, this GPU would, okay, have high, is likely to have high resale value, would have been a better version of option A. We are going with D here, but let's wait for the key. All right. All right, just a sec, all right. A goes to shop. At the shop are two salesmen, X and Y. X always says the truth. Y always speaks falsehoods. X and Y are aware of each other's tendencies. A does not know which salesman is X and which salesman is Y. Both salesmen say to A, if you ask the other salesman, he would tell you that GPU G1 is better than. So for example, X is the one who is who says falsehoods, and Y is the one who says the truth. Now X probably wants to sell, G2 over G1, or let's say, yeah, G2 over G1. He wants to sell G2 over G1, and he would say the other person would tell you that G1 is greater than G2, right? And Y, on the other hand, who speaks always the truth, he says, he also says the same thing. G1 is greater than G2, right? Now, since he says the truth, he knows this person will say anything he says will be false, right? So one interpretation here is from Y's, Y's, whatever Y says to A is actually G2 is greater than G1. Another interpretation could be G2 is equal to G1, right? Since he speaks falsehoods, it could mean both these things. G2 is greater than G1 and G2 is equal to G1, right? And the one who's speaking falsehoods, he says, now this guy will say G1 is greater than G2. Now that sentence itself, that this particular guy will say G1 greater than G2, that sentence itself is a falsehood. So we don't know whether to trust him or not, whether the other salesman will actually say G1 is greater than G2. We don't know, right? And again, another important information that is not given in the passage is whether they know that this particular guy will visit the other salesman, right? We don't know of that, whether he'll just listen to us and do the final purchase, or he will go to that other person, right? So we are not sure of that information is not given in the passage, right? Now, since the two interpretations exist, right, G2 greater than G1 and G2 is equal to G1, and this guy is always speaking falsehoods, according to me, the correct answer should be D, Delhi, right? Cannot be determined. Okay. I think this B is an extra here, but cannot be determined because it could be equal, it could be greater than, right? And as I said, that important bit of information, whether they know that this person will visit both these salesmen, that information is not given in the passage. So we are going with option D, Delhi. All right. So the next passage is completely deductive, right? And this should come easy to all the CLAT possible students. 54th, if it is sunny on any given day, I can go running, and it's not sunny today, which of the following must be true? So not sunny would be mistaken negation, right? So from mistaken negation could be true, could be false, right? So none of these could be determined. I cannot go running, I can go running, I can go walking. None of this can be inferred because the question does say must be true, right? So we are going with option D. All right. 55th, if a majority of spoons are forks, then which of the following could be true? And it says could be true. Now, since the given statement is a positive statement, right? From a positive statement, all positive conclusions are possible. It says could be true. A majority of forks are spoons, a minority of forks are spoons, all forks are spoons, right? So all these statements are possible. So all of the above. Option D. Okay. 56th. a majority of blankets are sheets. So 51 blankets, minimum 51, majority minimum 51 are sheets. Okay. Then a majority blankets are tablecloths. 51 blankets are tablecloths. And then it says no non-blanket sheet, right, is a non-blanket tablecloth. Let's work it this way. So if 51 blankets are sheets and 51 blankets are tablecloth, can we infer there is at least one blanket which is both sheet and tablecloth? At least one, right? So at least one would mean some, right? So the diagram could be this, and we can draw this, and because there has to be some overlap between sheets and tablecloths, and this is of course blanket, right? So there has to be some overlap between sheets and tablecloths. So had it been some, right, some blankets are tablecloths, some blankets are sheets, then the diagram would have been this: blankets, sheets, tablecloths. Then there will be no overlap between tablecloths and sheets. But since it is a majority one, so there will be some overlap between sheets and tablecloths, right? So that was the catch, and many of the CP students already know this, right? We have given you these questions. Most A are B's, most A are C's. So some B's are C's, right? Because at least one B will be C, because there will be overlap between A, B and C for at least one element, right? So we have done this in some of the questions in the mocks, right? Some of the institutes, some of the teachers have given here cannot be determined, but the correct option here will have to be B, Bombay. Some sheets are tablecloths, that can be determined, right? Option B is correct. Even if we take into account what is given in the third statement, which is no non-blanket sheet, so non-blanket sheet, and no non-blanket tablecloth, this area, there is no extra overlap. Even if there is no extra overlap between sheets and tablecloths, there will be some overlap between sheets and tablecloths because there is a majority, there are two majority statements, right? So the correct option here is B, Bombay. All right. Okay. A minority of wallets are purses. A majority of wallets are perfumes. Which of the following, again, could be true? I'll just clean this. Right. A minority of wallets are purses. A majority of wallets are perfumes. No purses are perfumes. Yes, that could be a possibility. All purses are perfumes. That could also be a possibility. So option C is correct. Okay. 58, and the question after this, some problem, right? I think they'll do something about these questions. Let's check. A majority of Formula 1 race cars are race cars. Majority, not all, are race cars, right? All race cars drive on four wheels. So all, if it is a race car, it drives on four wheels. All four-wheel cars are 20 times as fast as cars that drive on any other number of. So basically, all race cars with four wheels will drive faster than any other car driving on lesser or more number of wheels, right? Four wheels is the ideal thing here, right? Speed is the only determining factor for winning a race that involves cars. Which of the following is are correct? A says in a Formula 1 race, a non-four-wheeled car, right? A car that does not drive on four wheels will never be able to win. What if in that Formula 1 race, right? In that Formula 1 race, all of the cars participating in the race are non four-wheeled cars. In that case, definitely one of the cars will win, right? So from A, we don't know whether this race includes race cars, right? Or whether there will be at least some cars that will be race cars. In statement number one, it's given a majority of Formula One cars are race cars, right? We don't know if those minority of Formula One cars that are not race cars are participating, right? So A cannot be determined. B, in a Formula One race, the winner of a race among 20 cars can be predicted using only the number of wheels. Again, what if all these 20 cars, are non four-wheeled cars, right? Then also this cannot be determined, right? Then it says C, in an Indy 500 race where all participating cars are race cars, the winner of a race among 50 cars can be predicted. To tell you what, this looks like the best option, because although I don't think they'll give this option as a correct option, because it says all participating cars are race cars and it says can, and this one here says will never, right? So there's a problem with this question. Even this one says here can, right? And we don't have any other option. We don't have an option that says none of the above. So I think we'll wait on this one, right? We'll wait on this one. Let's see what CLAT gives us. Ailet gives us, right? 59th, again, there's a problem, okay? It says a minority of folders are documents. Which of the following is true? So A says folders are documents. All folders are documents. It says a minority. C says if there are no documents, there are no folders. So actually, A and C are saying the same thing, right? So I tell this in my class. Sometimes what happens is we are not able to reach the correct option, right? We are not able to reach the correct option sort of through a direct way. But sometimes what happens is there are these 2 to 3 options that are very similar, that are saying things that are very similar. Just on that basis, right? Just on that basis, we can eliminate all those options, because they are saying similar things. They can't be correct at the same time, because the option B is something very different, right? Option B says if there are documents, there are at least 2 folders. I don't know where they got this number 2 here, right? So we will leave it, okay? A and C leads us to believe that all folders are documents, and it does not go with statement 1, right? I think they wanted to give B as a correct option. They sort of there's a typo here, but let's wait for the key. All right, so this one is easy. I think the correct option here is C. All moons are asteroids, all planets are celestial bodies, some planets are moons, and this is fairly simple, right? Moons are asteroids, and then it says some planets are moons, right? So planets are moons, and from here only we understand some asteroids are planets, irrespective of what the other statement says, right? So option C is correct here. All right. All right. I think this passage is already covered in the analytical reasoning section analysis, barring this question, which is which of the following can be deduced from the passage. And here the correct option is A. It is sort of given in the passage in an indirect way. So option A is correct here. Which of the following can be deduced from the passage? Elizabeth II ruled over Scotland. All right, so I think here there was some problem here. It said she was called Elizabeth II, which offended many Scots, as she was the first Elizabeth to rule in Scotland. All right. So in this question, I think it has to be C, both A and B. Okay. Did not rule over Scotland. So I think it has to be C, not A. All right. I'm not sure if this is covered in the analytical reasoning section, but yeah. All right. This passage, right? So when I was going through this passage, it looked intimidating, but what I figured out, what I found out later was this was one of the easier passages. The questions were pretty straightforward here, right? Let's look at these questions, okay? If X has a right vis-a-vis everyone else and Y has a privilege vis-a-vis X, then X has a dash. So Y has a privilege vis-a-vis X. So when there is privilege, then the other person has no right, right? So the correct option here is option A. X and Y enter into a contract that provides as follows. The quantum and time of payment, if any, shall be determined by A, a third party, on the basis of the parties' performance of their obligations under the contract. All right, so there's this third party in which the power is vested, right? Here A has dash vis-a-vis X and Y, and even in the passage there is this example of courts, right? It says courts have power only if plaintiffs or prosecutors exercise their power to commence a lawsuit, right? So the correct option amongst the four, C, power, right? This one again was easy. Every person can travel on any road unless it is blocked by a person who owns that road. Every person has dash vis-a-vis the owner of the road. Nothing. At best, they have a duty to listen to the owner of the road. Duty is not mentioned. None of the above. 81st, in the facts of the question above, the owner of the road has dash vis-a-vis everyone else. So owner of the road, of course, he has the right of ownership. If A has a right to claim damages from B, B has a, so right, A has a right over B, so B has a what? And we can go back to that table, duty. Sec. Duty. B has the duty to pay the damages. The owner of land can lease the property to any other person. Under that lease, the owner can allow subleasing. So the owner can create rights in some other person. So that ability to create rights is owner's power to create rights, right? So option B is correct here, 83B. 84. If X infringes Y's copyright, Y can sue X. Y has right, no duty, immunity, I think power. Y has power. And again, this can be inferred from the passage itself. Rights and duties with respect to each other. Courts have power only if plaintiffs or prosecutors exercise their power, plaintiffs or prosecutors exercise their power to commence a lawsuit, right from there. All right. Primogeniture, all titles are inherited by the oldest eligible child. Note that a dead child's progeny would mean if somebody is dead, right? There is this ruler and ruler's eldest son, right? And then there is there is a sibling here. At this level, there is a sibling. So this is the ruler, right? And this is the heir, right? And now this heir has a sibling. Okay. Now, actually, primogeniture goes like this, no sideways, unless it is required. It doesn't go sideways, it will go down, right? So this guy has a right. What if he's not there? He's dead. What if he's not there? He's dead. Then the person below him has the right. If he's not there, then one can move sideways, right? Then one can move sideways to figure out who becomes the ruler, right? A lot of these succession based passages given. In some questions there were some confusions, right? Not all questions were perfectly presented, or some of the options had some little bit of problem. Every option had some little bit of problem. But let's see. Ultimogeniture, actually it goes the same way as primogeniture, top to bottom, sideways only if it is necessary. It will go top to bottom. The only difference between primogeniture and ultimogeniture is in primogeniture, the oldest eligible child is the person, is somebody who is heir to the throne. Here, the youngest is the heir to the throne. That's the only difference, but both go downwards. House of seniority, anybody who is the senior most, right? And you know what? It doesn't end there. And some of the questions, and I've seen some of the people have come to me with the answer choices given in some other in some other institutes, and some other teachers have given some answer choices. What I've seen in most of those questions, and the way that the teachers have responded to those questions, is they have ignored this part, the note part. Read it carefully. The above rules of inheritance can take the following norms: gender neutral, male preference, where younger men take precedence over older women, and vice versa for female preference, right? So now there's this child, so male preference. In case of male preference, a girl child is born and then a boy child, right? Now boy child is the heir to the throne in a male preference situation, right? So that had to be kept in mind while answering the questions, right? Disowning, if a person is validly disowned, his or her position in the line of succession ceases to exist. And again, an important point here: only a person who has become a ruler in accordance with any of the rules of succession mentioned above can disown a person in the line of succession, right? Monkhood also, I think there is monkhood given. A person in the line of succession may also choose to adopt monkhood. So three situations, right? Monkhood, disowning a child, monkhood, disowning a child, and third is let me just check. One was monkhood, and third, of course, the child is stillborn. Stillborn would mean dead. Okay. A ruler's firstborn son, at the moment of his birth, is first in the line of succession. This statement is A, always correct with respect to the rule of primogeniture. Always correct. We don't know whether this is primogeniture gender neutral, whether this is primogeniture male preference, whether this is primogeniture female preference, right? So son, if it is a female preference, right, then this will not work, right? यहाँ पे child होता, because in the passage, just be very sure, it says child, not the gender, right? So A is not correct. B, always correct with respect to the rule of. Always correct? No. C, capable of being correct in case of ultimogeniture? Yes, capable of being correct. Now, he is the firstborn and only child, right? So capable of being correct. Option C is correct. Okay, not option A. I understand many of the people coming to me with this question, giving A as the option from, again, different answer keys available on the internet. Option C is correct here. And same is the case with the other question. A ruler's last born son at the moment of his birth is the first in the line of succession. Again, talks about son and not child, right? Always correct. We don't know whether it is gender sensitive, gender preference or not. We don't know that. So capable of being correct in cases of okay, so let's check C. Capable of being correct in cases of primogeniture. So last born son, okay, capable of being correct in case of primogeniture, in which the firstborn son should ideally be the heir. Yes, because what if the previous sons, right, are no more there? You know, they were stillborn, right, or they were, I don't know, disowned. Okay, so capable of being correct. Option C is correct. Now, different rules of inheritance can never create situations where the same person is first in the line of succession. Different rules of inheritance can never create situations where the same person, of course, there can be situations, only child, primogeniture, ultimogeniture, same, only child and nobody in family left, right? Nobody in the family. Then even this will work, house seniority. So it says can never create, and that statement is not correct. Option B is correct. Option B. So there's some sort of twist there. Can never, not correct, right? Option B. Okay. One second. Why is the youngest child of X, one second, the current ruler who has 5 other children, each of them older than Y, Y is first in the line of succession? Which of the following inferences can be drawn about the realm? A says if the rule of primogeniture is followed, then Y's elder siblings have all been disowned. Again, we are not sure. Disowned. It could be the case that they are dead. It could be the case they are all gone for monkhood, right? B, even if one or more of Y's elder siblings were not disowned, it is possible that the rule of primogeniture is followed. Yes, it is possible. It says, Y is the youngest child of X, the current ruler who has 5 other children, each of them older than Y. Y is first. So maybe it's a gender sort of preference thing, and the other 5 are girls, and this is a boy, or the other 5 are boys, and this is a girl. So it is possible that rule of primogeniture is followed. The only possible rule governing, again, the only possible rule governing is this, since we are saying this is also possible. C is not correct, option B is correct. 105. Which of the following scenarios are possible? This particular question, again, there is a problem. If we are referring to the previous fact, okay, it says, look at A. I think this is sort of incomplete. A says a realm follows the rule of house seniority, the ruler's eldest brother. Okay, the ruler's eldest brother, and we don't know what it means by that. B says even if one or more wise elder siblings were not disowned, it is possible that the rule of primogeniture is followed. It says the same thing, right? The only possible rule governing. I think there's some problem with the question or the way we have presented this question here. We're going with B here. B looks correct, but I'm still not sure what option A wants to tell us. Okay, it looks a little incomplete. Okay, again, wait for the answer key. Okay, for this one. X is the ruler of the realm. X has 3 younger sisters, W, Y, and Z. Younger sisters, right? So X and 3 younger sisters, W, Y, and Z. X is married to A, with whom he has 3 sons, B, C, D, in increasing. Increasing ho gaya, B is less than C, less than D. And the 2 daughters, E and F, in increasing. So E is less than F. F is younger than B. So F is younger than B. F is younger than B. Okay. So since F is younger than B, obviously E is younger than B. Now, W is older than D. W is the sister, right? W is older than D. Okay, D is like the oldest son. Okay. E is married to P and has 2 children. Okay, E has 2 children, Q and R, right? So Q and R, it says Q is less than R. So Q is the youngest here, okay? I'm going for the youngest one because towards the end it says ultimo geniture. E dies, okay? So E dies and stricken by grief after E's death, X dies. So if you look at E, okay, E is the heir apparent because it says gender neutral, ultimo, the youngest one, irrespective of the gender, the youngest one. The youngest one is, we understand, E. E gone, right? E gone. The next in line is F, right? The next in line is F. And X dies. So X is currently the ruler, right? X is the ruler. Assuming the realm follows gender neutral ultimo, the throne passes to, obviously, F. E has gone, F, the youngest one, right? Option B is correct. Okay. All right. What if, so this could have, the answer could have changed dramatically. The answer could have changed dramatically had the order been reversed. Had it been the case that X died, right? X died. X dying would make E as the heir apparent, as the ruler. X gaya, E becomes the ruler. Now E dies. E जैसे ही जाएगा, E children, Q and R basically, right? Sorry, Q basically would have been the correct option had the order been reversed, order of death. But in this case, what happened was the heir apparent died first. Heir apparent died first, and then heir to the throne died, and then the king died. So the next in line was F. Option B is correct. Okay. In the facts of the question above, if the realm followed the rule of house of seniority, the throne, house of seniority, the eldest member. Who's the eldest member here? I think W. D was the eldest son. W is elder than D. Okay. We can just go back and check once. Z, right? Z. Z should be the answer. So option A is correct here. Z, the eldest one. Okay. All right. Passage on Gropny. And again, some student told me that I follow Gropry, and that's why the passage became an sort of an easier read for me, but the questions were still sort of tricky. And I agree with him to an extent that the passage will become, and this goes with all the passages, okay, that the passage on cryptocurrency and GPU, somebody who's into gaming and who has a sense of how cryptocurrency work, they would find that passage easier read than somebody who has seen Succession, or who understand, who have seen sort of these Game of Thrones and Succession. And I'm not saying that they are better placed while solving these questions, but it's just the case where I'm reading this passage, I'm comfortable with the passage, I understand what is happening. I'm not particularly spending too much time making connections in my head. Just that. Okay. All right. The first question here: if the orientation of the wings in a Formula One car were reversed, so the wing is, one would imagine this car, and the wing is on the back, just on the boot, right? That boot lid, on the boot lid, there's this wing, right? Even if you don't visualize that, you are somebody who's not seen Formula One or a race car for that matter. It was amply clear from the passage that these wings are provided to these cars to give them sort of to so that they just don't leave the surface of they don't leave the road, right? They are just on the road. Okay. So if the orientation of the wings in a Formula One car were reversed, in the passage it was given the wings in the aeroplane are placed such that it is easier for the plane to take that to take that takeoff. And here in this case they are inverted, right? Because they need more force downwards, right? So they are already inverted and placed on the back of the car, right? Now it says they are reversed again, right? They are reversed again. The effective weight pressing down the track would be X times pressing down on the track, right? So now instead of pressing down, it will be sort of tend to go up, right? The wing is reversed. Would be X times the weight of the car. X is, and from that we can say X is less than 1, because X is greater than 1 would have been the case. And this is what ideally the race cars are meant to do. They need to give, and there it was written G and 5G. We want to increase this G, right? We want to increase this G so that cars don't just go into the air with that kind of speed, right? But here the wings are reversed, so we're going with C. A supercar has a greater acceleration and top speed compared to a Formula One car, but does not have wings that generate even half the downforce. And this is important, right? To remain on, so that they don't leave the surface of the road, right? They don't leave the track. Okay. The supercar would still handily lose a race against a Formula One car, which among the following statements is correct? The racetrack. About the racetrack, And one particular point that they mentioned here was somewhere here has to be balanced, and it betters the cornering ability, right? There's a twist and the car corners. Corners would mean going around the corner, cornering ability, right? So somebody again understands all of this, it will be easier for him to get this term immediately, cornering ability, right? But yeah, they are at a slight advantage going into the passage, but again, not so much of an advantage, right? So it says the racetrack has at least a few turns, right? Because they are able to corner those corners, right? Better. So option B, I think, looks the best here. Okay. All right. Without downforce generating apparatus in Formula One car, the driver would. So A says a Formula One car without any apparatus affecting aerodynamics would act like an aeroplane. It would act like an aeroplane in a way that it will sort of go in the air, it will leave the surface of the earth, right? In that sense, yes, but it will act like an aeroplane still looks like sort of an exaggeration. Let's look at B. Need to slow their car down to make turns. And that is true, right? That is true. Cornering ability. Need to gain a lot of weight. Need to gain a lot of weight. Yes, because it said if there is no other apparatus, then there are no wings, then the weight of the car will have to sort of compensate for the force that is sending the car into the air, right? So B and C both look good, and that's why we are going with D, although A may appear to be exaggeration, right? So D looks the best option. Assume that an object enters into free fall if the force attracting it towards the earth is less than the force pushing it away from the earth. Further, assume that all objects on earth are pushed away from it with a force equal to 1g. Alright? A Formula One car, therefore, A says, is in free fall at all times during a race. We don't know whether this Formula One car has the required apparatus or not. We don't know. Is not in free fall at any time during a race. Again, we don't know whether the apparatus is there. If it is there, is it sufficient? Is it sufficient to keep the car attached to the surface of the earth always? We don't know. Is in free fall at some times during, but not all, it says. Is in free fall at some times during a race. We don't know. The correct option cannot be determined. Downforce generated by the wings of a Formula One car creates force towards the floor of the car. That's fine. Thereby keeping the floor of the car closer to the surface of it being driven on. Okay. As mentioned in the passage, this downforce can be around 5 times the gravitational force. All right. Exerted by the earth on the car. So there's some force from, because it is at that high speed, for the earth pushes the car away from it at 1g, and the wings push the car towards the surface of the earth at 5g, right? This implies that a Formula One car, if driven at a high enough speed, can drive upside down in the tunnel that is on the roof of the tunnel. Yes, it can, because 5G, right? 5G, it is sending the car the gravity itself is sort of pushing it upward. 1G is applied upward, and so it says can be around 5 times, and this is the key here. It does not, the question stem does not commit itself to say it is exactly 5g. It can be around 5 times. So according to me, the A would have been better if it is written. Oh, it's written can here, okay? Can. So I'm happy with A. I'm happy with A. B says a Formula One car cannot drive upside down in a tunnel. It can drive upside down. C, gravity and downforce always act in the same direction. Not always, right? Downforce, if the car is inverted, one would imagine that the wing will be, pushing it up, right? It is down with respect to the wing, but with respect to everything else, surroundings, it will be pushing up, right? So C does not look good. I think correct option is A, according to me. 118th. All right, so I think this was the last question. I think the other logical reasoning questions have already been discussed in the analytical reasoning section analysis. CP students can, of course, write to me if they think they do not agree with some of the answers, they think they need further explanation on some of the questions, right? And that can all happen after the CLAT exam, because I would really like all of you to really focus on the CLAT as of now, right? This analysis, a further analysis of this analysis can be done after the CLAT exam, right? So all the best for the CLAT exam. That's it from my side. Take care.